Hi friends, it's Julie Golding Page, independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in St. Stephen, New Brunswick, Canada, along the tidal Scoodic or St. Croix River, the traditional territory and home of the Passamaquoddy. And I'm grateful that they share this beautiful place with us. Today I have a brand new free class for you, and it also features the free Sunny Days paper that you can get from Sale-A-Bration right now through the end of February or whenever it sells out first. So I want to show you these 3 cards today, and let's get right to it so we can make our projects. All right, so I'm going to switch my camera here. Okay, so here we go. Here's my desk. And as I mentioned, we're going to be making 3 cards today. So here is a preview of the very first one that we're going to be doing. And I'll explain how you can get the class kit free with all the packets to make the cards as we go along. So here's a sample of one of the packets. That's the one for this card here. And this one uses this beautiful, beautiful paper. And I'm just going to show you the paper right now. Oh, hi, Kathy. Welcome. Yeah, I was just saying that we're going to be using this free Sale-A-Bration paper that you can get a package of. It comes in 12 by 12 sheets, and you'll get all of these designs that you see here, and then you flip it over, and on the back you have different designs. So you have brights on one side and subtles on the other, which is really nice. They kind of can suit any sort of project that you want to be doing. And this is called the Sunny Days paper. So you can get that free when you place an order for $60, or just spend $60 in any order that you're doing. And you'll get that absolutely free if you want to choose that, or you can choose from more than a dozen other things if you'd rather have something else free instead. And that's just during Sale-A-Bration, which I call the most wonderful crafting time of the year because it's got the best deals in my opinion. So here are the packets that you'll get. If you place that $60 minimum order with me, you'll get the free Sale-A-Bration item of your choice. And I can help you find out where to do that if you're not sure. And you'll also get the free class kits here to make these cards. And I'm really happy to be able to give those to you because I love these cards and I like to say thank you to my customers. I'm a pretty small operation and every single sale makes a tremendous difference to me. So thank you to anyone who has bought from me in the past, or if you're going to be purchasing this particular time. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll do our stamping first. So we're going to use Poppy Parade ink here. And to make this little circle that you'd receive in your packet with your $60 or more order, I'm going to show you how you make that little circle. So it comes from this set of dies, and this is the set of dies I use more than anything. This one is called Stylish Shapes. So it's not got fancy shapes that you would see, you know, to cut out some of the ones that we're going to cut out today with clouds and that sort of thing. But this is the most useful set I think I've ever had because you've got these nested circles, nested labels, and nested squares, or turn them on the side and they're diamonds. So you can use them that way too. So I cut out one of those from basic white cardstock, and we're going to use Poppy Parade ink to stamp. And if you're interested in finding out more about the supply list for everything I use here, what you can do is just click through on the Learn More link that's right in this post, and it'll take you to a blog post that I've already written about this class and how to get it for free. And it has a full supply list for you as well. Now, we're going to be using this brand new stamp set, which is Bright Skies. I think this is a great one for Canadians because we're always talking about the weather. And this one includes all kinds of different sorts of weather. So let's get this one that says Sprinkled with Love. And we will use that stamp right now. Okay, so let's get out our little acrylic block here. Just stick our stamp on there. And remember that if you're using one of these photopolymer stamps, that's the see-through kind, as opposed to the red rubber ones, you have to condition it with your fingertips before you use it. That's because it comes from the factory where I was lucky enough to visit this year in Utah, and I got to see how they make the stamps. In the factory, they come with a factory coating after the manufacturing process. And what I can tell you is they wash them with dish soap. So it's just dish soap that you're getting on your hands. It's not toxic. It's not going to be anything harmful for you. And I know I was really happy to hear that because I didn't know what the stuff was before. I'd been told you needed to condition your stamps and there was something on them, but I just didn't know what it was. So I feel much better knowing that it's dish soap. All right, so we're going to just tap this a few times to give it really good coverage. And I would suggest that when you use a stamp, especially for the first time, you try it out on your cardboard. So you need a cardboard under your photopolymer stamps here. And that is because they don't come with a built-in cushion, so you have to add one. And look how nice and clear that is. So I had already conditioned and used this once or twice before, but make sure you condition it at the time. Especially with a nice bold font like this, you're going to want to condition it because it's going to need a lot of ink coverage, and you'll really notice it if it isn't covered very well. All right, so there we go. That's stamped very nicely. I've been very happy with the color Poppy Parade for using with any kind of stamp really, but especially sentiments. And I've been very happy with the font that comes with this Bright Skies bundle. I think it's really nice. All right, so if you're watching today, let me know if you're enjoying these free classes. I decided to do them during Sale-A-Bration as additional value for my customers and to be able to gift them with something really nice and useful and fun with the various card packets that go with the free classes. And so I'd love to know if you find this helpful or not, and whether I should continue it again after Sale-A-Bration's over. So here's what we're going to stamp next. We're going to stamp this little flower, so condition that one too. And we've got the little bit of greenery here too that we're going to also use. Okay, so let's move our circle out of the way. In your free packet that you'll get with your minimum $60 order, you will get all these pieces. And here's one that we're going to use. Now this is just a little scrap, as you can see. So it's really good to keep your little scraps around because you can use them for all kinds of things that you might not think of at the time. I have a whole drawer full of scraps that I just keep. That's all I put in that drawer. And I really like to have all those scraps because that saves me from cutting new paper when I need to make little things like this. Oh, hi, Mom. I'm glad you could come today, too. Hope you like the projects. All right, so that was Poppy Parade, and we used that little flower. Now we're going to use Shaded Spruce for the greenery. Now, if you're wondering where I'm getting these colors, why I'm choosing these particular ones, they're just the colors that are in the paper. And so I just went exactly with the colors in the paper, and that makes it super easy, and everything works out really well that way. You don't even have to think about it very much. All right, there's one little bit of greenery, and here's another. Okay, so now we've got all our stamping done. So I'm just gonna close my stamp pad and avoid any ink disasters here. And I'll just bring out my much loved stamp chamois here. If you don't have one of these, I recommend these because there's no chemicals involved. It's this special foamy absorbent material. And then you just stamp and kind of squish your stamp right into it. And all you put on it is water. So it's just water that's cleaning it. And I find it is really effective for most of the inks that Stampin' Up! Has. It's good on any ink that is actually water soluble. So all of these are water soluble. Now, saying that they're water soluble doesn't mean that you won't end up with inky fingers, or that it might, it might take a little while to wash it off, like a few hours, it'll still be there until you wash your hands a few times, but it is water soluble ink and it's not permanent like a Sharpie or something like that. So it will come off without too much time or effort. All right, so let's go ahead and we will cut those out now. So I need to get my dies, and I think I left them somewhere else. Let me just find those for a moment here. My dies. did I put those? Okay, apparently I was way too efficient yesterday making these sample cards and I put them away. But here are the dies that are part of the Bright Skies bundle. So you can see all the cool stuff you've got. You can do all these little raindrops. That is the one we're going to use for our flower greenery. You get like a little lightning bolt here and here. You got some more flowers and some more greenery. You got a sun here, or it could be a flower. You got multiple clouds, and it's just really, really nice. And then you've got these ones here. So you can make water out of them. You can make clouds. You can make, if you turn them this way, you can make kind of a horizon in the distance with greenery or mountains. So you could do all kinds of things with those. And we're just going to get these dies out and select the ones we need. So I need that little guy, and I need this little flower. So I'm just going to dig out my Stampin' Cut and Emboss Mini, and I'm going to cut these out right now. So just bear with me while I shift some of my things out of the way here, all my ink pads. Okay, so I love this mini machine, and I like to take it to the cottage in the summer because it does most jobs that I need, and it's super easy to carry around. So you can take this to a crop or to somebody's house or whatever you want, and it's so easy. So there is plate number 1. We're going to put that first. Plate number 2, and I do recommend keeping the same plate on the bottom because you can see the cut marks that it makes. And you have one that you just use on the top, the other plate number 2, and you can see that's not cut marks, that's just pressure marks. And if you use the same plate on the bottom as you do on the top from time to time, you'll get those cut marks embossing right into your image. And this way, with a different plate on top, it's better that way. Okay, so let's just cut these little guys apart. So I'm going to cut that flower. And this one, I'll save that little piece for something else. You never know when you might need it. And I'll cut these 2 out as well, and we'll put them aside. Okay, so let's see if we can put them on. Now, you can also put them on with washi tape or other low tack tape. I'm going to see if I can just press them down and kind of get them where I want them. But feel free to use washi or other low tack tape to just kind of keep them in place. And then you don't have to worry about them moving. So I'm just going to very carefully put my plate on top without moving the images. And I think I was successful there. They stayed where I wanted. But sometimes I do use the washi, especially if I'm making 4 or 5 different dies go through at the same time. It just works better that way. Okay, so I have my little flower here, if I can get it to move. So there's my little flower and my little piece of greenery that goes with my flower. Now we're going to do it all over again and make our next one. Okay, so here we go. Here's our next 2. And then we will continue on with making this nice card. So has anybody got this particular bundle and tried it yet? This was my first try with it, making these cards, and it's super cute. And I like this paper a lot. I like the colors. It just seems like it's a paper that'll work for anybody because it's got the vibrant colors, it's got the subtle colors, and everything in between that just look really good. And if you're watching today and you're thinking, I want all the things. I want the machine, I want, you know, more papers, or if you have some of those things and you just want certain stamp sets or whatnot and your wish list is getting long, you might want to consider joining. You would be joining Stampin' Up! And my Creative Cafe team, which I just call my Creative Cafe group because you don't have to sell anything to belong to it. But we do have a $15 a month craft class that's optional. You can do it if you want. So that's a bargain I like to give to my friends in the group. And you also get a 20% minimum discount during your membership with future orders with Stampin' Up! And the joining deal is super good. For just $135, So $135, you can choose 165 worth of stuff. No tax and no shipping in most places, most provinces. And you also get a free glass mat studio right now. And if you click on Learn More in my post today, you can find out more about that deal. You can also exchange it instead of having the glass mat studio. If you don't need that, then you can just get $201 worth of anything you want from the Stampin' Up! Website for just $135 with no tax in most places and no shipping anywhere. So it's a really nice bargain. So I always advise people to look at that first because it's such a good deal. So this is my multi-purpose liquid glue that I'm going to be using here. And I'm going to be putting these little guys on to my paper. Now you can see there, I'm hardly using any glue at all. Look at the tiny, tiny amount of glue. This glue sticks super well and you don't want it oozing all over your project. So I find with the liquid glue, especially this one, because it sticks so well, less is more. So I don't worry about putting a lot of glue on there. It really doesn't take much for it to stick super nicely. Okay, so there you go. We got those on, simple as that. And next we're going to stick on these little flowers. And for that, I'm going to use my mini dimensionals. So here's one. These little things are great because they're good for small stuff. And actually they stick really hard, so you don't need any more than that anyway. And you get a 720 in a package, whereas the bigger dimensionals, you get 300 in a package. So it's a really good value for these little guys. And sometimes you just need the smaller ones. Okay, so there is our nice little label that we made. So that is it for that. So now it's just a matter of assembling the rest of the card. Okay, so let's see what we can do with that. Let's get out our pieces. So we have a thick white cardstock card base. And again, if you're just joining me, the supply list is in my blog post that I made about this with all the details on how to get all these card packets for free with your order. Minimum $60, and then you get to choose a Sale-A-Bration item for free as well. So you get lots of free stuff with your $60 order. It's the best time of the year to order, in my opinion. And there's all kinds of new products that are really, really nice. So I'm just going to put on this paper. This again, and all of the decorative paper you see today is going to be used from that Sale-A-Bration free item with $60 spend. And it is called Sunny Days paper. Okay, you will also find in your card packet a white rectangle and then some other rectangles of that Sunny Days paper. So you can use either side because they have different colors. And this one you could turn over and use the other side of it too if you wanted to. But basically what I'm doing is using the two strawberries and I'm putting that cherry in the middle. And I'm just arranging them more or less in a symmetrical fashion across there. So you see how quickly I did that? That wasn't any fuss. You can measure if you want. I don't usually do that because I find you can usually eyeball it and it's close enough that it looks good. So if anyone's looking that closely that they can tell something is a millimeter off, well, that wouldn't be me, and I don't think it would be many people, so I don't worry too much about that. With handmade items, things tend to vary a little bit anyway, and so you expect some difference. And also, if you're receiving these packets free with your order, the person who's going to receive your card will not have seen my demo, and so if you want to make it differently than I did, that's totally fine. Nobody will say, oh, that's not right. And anyway, even if they did, you could say, well, it's creativity. There is no wrong. That's one of the beauties of this hobby. Because you don't do it wrong, there's no way to do it wrong. All right, we're going to flip that over. And this time I am going to use the larger dimensionals. in case you haven't seen them before, that's how they are side to side. So you've got the large ones on the left and the small ones on the right. And I like to put 4 on the corners and 1 in the middle. Okay, there we go. And 2 friends, if you are finding that these free classes I'm doing as a trial during Sale-A-Bration are helpful to you or useful to you, would you please let me know in the comments or send me a message, because I'm just trying this out as something new during Sale-A-Bration as kind of a gift to my customers, and I'm really keen to know whether you think it's helpful and whether you'd like me to continue doing these free classes afterwards. So it would help me to just kind of hear from you and know what you think. So thanks in advance to anybody who's going to let me know what you think of that. And let's get this put on. So we're just using dimensionals. This is all just sticking everything together, so no worries. Okay, we're going to just stick that on there. And then we're going to make this little bow. So if you don't like bows, you could fill in the space here with some embellishments instead, and that is totally fine. But I want to show you this. This is something new that I just got. It's Real Red and Burlap Ribbon Combo Pack. So we're going to see the burlap one later. This is the Real Red. Look how pretty that is. So it is 10 yards total. So yeah, so each one of these is going to be 5 yards in the spool. So this is really pretty. And it's very, very shiny. And I like that about it too. And I try to always tie my bows right on the spool, because I find I end up wasting a lot less of the ribbon that way. So that's why I do that. You'll see at the end, you don't have to cut off very much. So let me see, if I put that kind of there, that would be good. So we're just going to cut off a tiny bit. So that's going to be all the waste that I get, is right there from tying right on the spool. And then we're going to just cut on that side too. And that's all we need. So a tiny little bit of ribbon for your bow. And what I like to use to stick that on, I wouldn't recommend any of the liquid glues. They just make a big mess and cause a lot of frustration with ribbon and fabrics. So I'm just going to take this little glue dot here and add that to my card. And just like that, we've completed our card. So that is card number 1 from the Bright Skies bundle. Okay, so let's move on to card number 2. All right, card number 2 is going to be this one. So it says, "You brighten my cloudy days." And that's a really nice sentiment. That's a very, very kind sort of card to send to someone, to let them know how big a difference they're making in your life. I think that's really nice. And there's not nearly enough of that going around these days. So if you've got cards around that you've made, please send them. Something that I realized just recently is that I had a lot of cards and I hadn't sent nearly enough of them. So I started giving them out, and I was totally blown away with the kind of reaction I got to them, because you send a thank you card and people are almost more thankful to you than you were to them in the first place. Like, they really, really love receiving cards. So please send your cards when you make them. I think that's what I learned from all that. So here we're going to start with our little tag, and that tag comes from this set, which is a Designer Tags Dies set. So you can see you get these various tags, decorative ones. You get this decorative flower bit, this nice little butterfly, and this tag that you can feed ribbon through on either side. So you can use it landscape or portrait. And so I like this set. I've used it quite a bit as well. And I already pre-cut my tag so that I'd have it ready. So here it is. And I just need to poke out those little pieces from the die cutting. There we go. And now we can go ahead and stamp. And once again, as you can see, I'm going to be using the Poppy Parade. So I'm just going to rearrange my different things here. Okay, so let's do that in Poppy Parade. And I'll bring out my cardboard again here. So we've got that to try everything on. All right, so let's get You Brighten My Cloudy Days. So that's this one here. Oh, I'm glad you like the cards, Kathy. Yeah, the colors are a bit unusual to have the red with kind of the subtle Pool Party and crushed curry. But I quite like the juxtaposition of it. I find trying new colors is always really interesting. Sometimes you can come up with really great combinations that you would never have thought of. And I think that that's really cool. Okay, so I'm going to stamp that just a little more. That didn't have quite the coverage I wanted it to have. I want it to be very bold. So that's not to say that yours all have to be bold, but I like the really bright colors myself, and so I love it to stand out. So let's see if we got it this time. Oh yeah, that's very nice. Look at that. Okay, so I'm going to close that up. And then we're going to do a little bit more stamping as well. So it's hard to tell on this particular card because the paper is so fantastic, which things are stamped and which things are actually from the paper. So you'll get to see which is which here in just a minute. So we did that. So I'll move our little tag. Now, this is stamped. So the sun is stamped in crushed curry. This big cloud is also stamped, and that's stamped in Pool Party. And also this background paper with all these raindrops, that is actually stamped too, and it looks pretty cool. So we're going to use a bunch of things in the set here today. So let's do our sun first. So this is crushed curry. If you don't have crushed curry and you want to use Daffodil Delight or Lemon Lolly, those would be fine as well. There's no other yellow on this card, so as long as it's a fairly bright yellow, it'll be okay no matter what. So this one, you definitely want to condition that. And I find stamps that have a big space like this, it's all got to be covered with ink. The best way to condition them is to use this Versamark invisible ink. So this is the kind of ink you would use if you're going to be doing embossing as well. And it can be used on its own just to make kind of a watermark effect on a piece of paper. But I like to use that to condition my new stamps when they have a large space that all has to be covered like that. And so I'm just going to pull out my little paper here that I need. That must be the one. Oh, no, that's not it. That's for something else. There. So it's just a little scrap. And I'm going to tap this over and over to get it nice and inky. And then I'm going to press it down for a few seconds and hold, because I want this to really take. Now, if you like a distressed look, you can play with it and do that instead. It really doesn't matter. It's whatever is to your taste. But I like that. That's pretty nice. And if you find it doesn't stamp evenly for you, well, no problem, because look, we're going to put some of it behind the cloud anyway. And it really, really won't matter. All right, so I'm going to just put that stamp away here before I go on, because I need those blocks to be used for the next part. And what we're going to do next is use the Pool Party to do this cloud. So that's what this big sheet is for, and you'll need a bigger block for this. So I'm using block E, but you can use whatever one is big enough. It really, really doesn't matter which one. So I'm going to open up my Pool Party. There's my ink ready to go. And I'm going to get out that great big stamp. So make sure you do condition this well also. And when I did this earlier, I actually did use the Versamark on that as well. And just made sure that all of the stamp would absorb the ink. I just wanted to make sure it'd be nice and bright. But again, we're going to cover up parts of it anyway, so no worries if you've got some that's a little uneven. It's also made up of a lot of lines, and so it's going to be a bit forgiving that way anyhow. All right, so let's see. So on a big stamp like this, I like to use both hands. I'm standing up as I do this, and I'm pushing down fairly firmly. I want to make sure I press down on all parts of the stamp, the edges, and also the middle. It seems like the middle is usually the part that gets missed. Let's see how I did. Yeah, so that's looking pretty good. There you go. Okay, so we've got that one done. Now, we still need to make this background sheet. So I'm going to show you how to do that next. And I'm going to put away my great big stamp here and get out the other one that we need. So the raindrop stamp that we need is actually this one here. And this kind of stamp is really useful, I find. It's actually incredibly easy to do, but the effect is fantastic. So you will find that there is another rectangle in your packet if you choose to place a minimum $60 order with me and get these packets for free. Now, there's going to be a couple of different rectangles in there, and it's going to be the bigger one that you want to stamp on, not this one. The smaller one's for the cloud, the larger one is for the raindrops. And the way that you can tell which is which is you will have a piece of patterned paper in your packet, and if you measure up the rectangle and it is the same height as your patterned paper from the Sunny Days paper, then that's the one to stamp the little raindrops on. So that's how you know the difference. So that's just a little tip for when you're trying to figure out your kit. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to stamp these. And remember to condition them. I already did that with mine, so it's okay. So we're just going to stamp them straight across. You don't have to fuss too much about lining up anything because you're just going to go all the way down the paper. Okay, so just kind of basically line them up. But remember, we're going to cover a lot of them with other things. And just like with real raindrops, they don't need to be absolutely uniform. It'll be okay. You just want this kind of continuous set of lines of raindrops, and that's really all we're aiming for. It doesn't have to be anything special. You can see I'm just going for it. I'm not really paying a lot of attention to where I'm stamping that. And when you're done, it looks really good, right? So nobody's going to think that that looks weird because it isn't absolutely uniform. And it probably looks better if it's slightly random. Okay, so we did that really quickly. That kind of thing is what can kind of strike fear into the hearts of some stampers. And so I wanted to do that and show it to you, explain it, and then do it really quite quickly too, so that you wouldn't be kind of worried that it wouldn't work out, because it will. And you know what? If you didn't like this for some reason, or you got a blob in the middle, just turn it over. You can do it again. It's all right. Or just make sure you kind of put your pieces on in a way that you won't see the parts you don't like. So that works too. Okay, so we've got that. And what we're going to do next is do our die cutting, I think. So we're going to get our die cuts done. And we're going to cut these out with the dies. Now, if you don't have the dies, you can cut them out with scissors instead, and that'll be just fine. But I'm just going to use my mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. I'm going to move that stuff out of the way there. And once again, it's got all the instructions on. It says plate number 1, 2 plates number 2, and you sandwich your paper and your die in between. So there's plate number 1, my bottom plate number 2. Then we've got this one, and I need to get my die out. Okay, so we've got lots of dies here, and it is this cloud that we're looking for. You'll be able to tell right away which one it is, because it's the only one that will actually line up. All right, so there we go. Fits very nicely into the little mini machine. And we're gonna crank that through. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so we got that done, and now we need to cut out the sun as well. Yeah, so see how it has this like nice decorative edge, almost like sewing in a way. It's really cute anyway. So we'll put that off to the side for later. And the next thing I need is the sun. Okay, so let's bring these back on camera. We'll put this cloud in again. Okay, and there's the sun. Oh, and I should tell you too, it's not just $60 orders that get you some free stuff when you order with me. Any size order actually will give you my free card of the month to make. And also my free tutorial bundle that I participate in with some other ladies from around the Stampin' Up! World in the US and Australia. And so I'm very happy to be able to gift those to anybody who orders with me, just to say thank you. As I was mentioning earlier, every single order makes a big difference. And so I'm really, really happy to be able to say thank you for that. Okay, now the tricky thing here is trying to figure out where, where the die fits. So that's not quite it. Let me see if I got it yet. Not quite. Let's see, we'll go again. So this die is just a little fussy for that, but the effect of it is really nice. So there, that looks good. So let's just position that on top, and we'll send it through the machine there. Okay, now it's gripped so I can move the machine. So here we go. All right, so that's our little sun. Isn't that cute? And we'll put that off to the side as well. All right, so I'm going to move my machine, and then we'll start putting all these pieces together. There's one more cutting task to do first, and I will show you what that's all about. Okay, so before I started here, what I did was I used this big piece here, this giant cloud, and I cut that out of Pool Party cardstock. So I'm going to show you that in the kit here. So here's what it looks like. And what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to use it up here in the top. And all I'm going to do though is just cut it down the middle. So you can actually just do that with scissors if you want to, because you're not going to see the bottom of it anyway. So I'm just going to cut straight across with scissors, and then I can use the other one for another project. So I just cut it right down the middle. That's all I did. So now I got these two, and we'll decide which one to use once we get going, but either one would work. Okay, so what we're going to do next is take our decorative paper and adhere that to our Poppy Parade background. So here is the Poppy Parade panel, and you will have a piece of the Sunny Days paper. You can use whatever side of it you want to use, okay? So you could use this side. Let's see what that would look like. So that could be okay too. Maybe I'll do that differently so we can see what the other side looks like as opposed to that one. So let's go ahead and we'll stick that on. And then we're going to arrange the other elements before we actually stick them on. Okay, so there's that one. That's all done. Okay. And now we're going to take this piece and we're going to arrange all the pieces. Okay. So we'll want that kind of up in the top. Then we'll want our sun sort of maybe like that. I don't know. You can decide exactly where you want it to go. And then sort of like that maybe with the cloud. And then you'll have another cloud that's also cut with the dies from Bright Skies bundle in your packet. And we're going to put that there. Okay, so to do that then, let's move all these. So that just helps you to see how it's going to go. And let's just put a line of adhesive across there. So I just put it across and we're going to stick that on. Okay, and now we're going to flip it over, use our scissors, and cut off the bits that we don't need. Okay, so that's all we're going to do with that. Very, very simple. Kind of a nice trick because then you don't have to know the dimensions or anything, and you can just take that off. Okay, so now we got that cloud on. So let's put this one on next. So again, I'm just going to put a line of adhesive across there. Oh, and let's put on the sun first though. So you can see what I was just doing there. I'm going like this with my adhesive and it's not doing anything. What you have to do is roll it up a little so you can see that glue edge there. And now it's working again. So there's my glue. Okay, so let's see, we'll put the sun like that. And maybe kind of like that. That looks pretty good. Maybe up a little bit more. I think I want that up a little more. I don't know why it matters that much, but I think I do. Or down a little more, maybe that's what I want. Yeah, down a little more is better. There we go. And then we're going to use dimensionals to put on our little cloud there. So I'm just going to put a couple on there. That should be plenty. Okay. And here that goes. Okay. All right. So now what we're going to do is just take that and we're going to adhere this panel, our rectangle, to our pattern paper. Okay, so you can just arrange it kind of in the middle if you like. That's kind of what I'm doing here. Okay, so we'll just stick that down. Can keep this for another project later. And now we're going to take just a little bit of that real red and burlap ribbon combo pack. We're going to use the real red, and it slips really nicely through this little hole in our tag. And we're just going to tie on the end, and that's all. No biggie. So we're just going to cut that off so it's not a frayed edge. Okay. And this one, try to make it sort of the same. There. So tying it on the spool, that was my waist. So very, very little. All right, and we'll just move that ribbon out of the way again since we're done. And now we're just going to adhere this tag with a couple of dimensionals. So I'm going to do that. Okay. And if you click through on today's post, by the way, where it says learn more, you'll also see all the list of my upcoming in-person and online classes that I have. And there's several coming up. And the deadline to register for most of them is the 28th of January. So do have a look at that. If you're watching this video after that time and you have a class that you're interested in, just let me know and I can see if I can do my best to fit you in. Hopefully we can make it work for you. Especially the in-person classes, I'm able to do that a little bit later, but I have to cut all the packets for everything. So that's why the deadlines are set the way they are, but I'd love to have you join me in a class. So there is our completed panel. And now all we need to do is adhere it to our card base with our dimensionals. And then that will be a completed card number 2. So I hope you're enjoying the cards so far. This is a very fun bundle to work with. It's got all these pieces that you can put together in different ways. And it's quite fun to play with the colors and so on too. So there you go. That is card number 2. So we just have one more. And just like I do in my in-person and online classes, I like to save the easier one for the end. I figure we have to have a card to ramp up that's not too hard, but can be kind of intermediate. And then the middle one is the harder one, if there is a harder one in the class. And then at the end, the easier one. So this one is going to be a little bit on the easier side, mostly just sticking things together and a tiny bit of stamping, not too much. So here is our label that we're going to stamp on, as you can see there. And that label is made with, once again, my favorite dies, the Stylish Shapes dies. So it's just this large label one. And I use those all the time because they're so helpful and versatile. Doesn't matter what time of the year, they work with anything. So this time we're going to use Shaded Spruce. So here we go. So I want brighter skies are on the way. So that's this sentiment here. So we're going to use that. And here we go. All right, so let's try that out first because this is a very bold font. It needs a lot of ink coverage and I just like to try it out first just to make sure. Yeah, that's good. Just to make sure it's going to stamp the way that I really like. So, because sometimes they don't if you don't kind of try them out first. All right, so we're going to hold that down for a few seconds to make sure the ink has lots of time to get into the paper. It looks like it does. Oh, very nice. Yeah. Well, there's a little bit of fiber there on the end. I had a little fiber in my stamp there, so it wasn't totally perfect on the end, but it's pretty close, so I think that's good. I'm going to see if I can do a little fix there, though, because this gives me a chance to show you something else. If I've got that marker, let me see if I've got a marker that is Shaded Spruce. Let me just grab my markers. Oh, yeah. This looks like one. Okay, so this is dark Shaded Spruce. Let me just try out on the fine tip. So I might be able. Yeah, look at that. So I just used my marker to brush in a tiny bit of ink where that skipped on the A. And now, look, that looks way better. So that's a good tip to know about as well. If you have these Stampin' Blend markers that actually match the colors of your ink pads, if you have a fairly bold font or something like the sun that we stamped earlier, I'll show you again, something like this that has a lot of ink coverage in the middle and it kind of gaps out, you could even color it with your marker and make that kind of look better. So that's exactly what I did with my Stampin' Blend. So that worked out pretty well. I'm happy with how that looks now. All right, so let's get our card base out and we will start putting this together. So here's our card base, and once again it's a basic white thick cardstock just to give it a little more body than the regular one does. Especially if you're putting multiple items on it, it just gives it a lot of rigidness so it will stand up nicely and so on. Okay, so we're going to put it this way. Now I cut this little guy out. And now I got to poke out all these little holes here. So I'm going to use my Take Your Pick tool for that. So here it is. I'm going to use the pokey end for it. So I'm just going to poke those through. Sometimes when you're doing small things with dies like this, little teeny holes, they don't all come out. So it helps a lot to have one of these little tools. All right. Okay, so I think I've got them all now. Let's see if we did. Yes, I did. Okay, now I've got all these little holes all over my desk, so I'm going to have to You had to sweep off some of those. Okay, so let's get those out of the way here so I don't stick any of them on my project. Put them in the bin, the recycling there. Okay, so this makes a really interesting die cut. And what this one is called is right here. It's called Dots and Spots die. So it will cut quite a big panel. It requires the standard Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, and you can see it, you can use it on vellum as well, which I did there. And I've quite enjoyed that die. It's quite nice. So what we're going to do with that though is we're going to take our card base and we're going to put dimensionals on the back and stick that on. Okay, so let's get our little mini dimensionals, and we're going to use those little guys. So you can just put them in between on the edges, just like you would for any project. I like them on the edge. And then we'll put one in the middle, and that should secure everything down nicely. You don't need much because they stick really well. Oops, I took the whole thing off. There we go. I'll put that back. There we go. And we'll take those backings off, and there's just one more here. Okay. So which way do we want that to go? That way or maybe this way? I like it. So we're just going to stick that onto our card base. All right. And now we're going to arrange all these items as well and get them on there. So in your card packet, when you place your $60 order or more with me, you will receive all these pre-cut. So these are done with the Stylish Shapes dies again. You can use either side. They're all from this same Bright Skies paper. Or sorry, Sunny Days paper that goes with the Bright Skies bundle. And this is from the paper as well. I just cut out these clouds, and you can either use your scissors to cut them out, or you can use the dies. Since I have the dies, I'm just going to use them here, and it will just take a little bit of time and effort away from the project that way. So I'm just going to move my inks since we're done, and I'm going to cut these little guys out. All right, so we need number 1. There's number 2. Let's do the big one first. And that would be this cloud right here. Okay, so we're going to put that in. Very nice. And the paper has all kinds of different colors in the cloud. So it has different kinds of gray, different kinds of green. And you can choose the exact one that you want when you have the paper. I just picked kind of randomly in this case and included that in my packet. Okay, so there it is. So that's very nice, isn't it? Before we stamped it. So you can stamp the cloud and then cut it out. But you can also just get it right out of the paper, which is what we did this time. So let's do that with our other cloud here as well. So here's our cloud. All right, so here's the little cloud. And we're just going to match that up as best we can. These are pretty forgiving with all the lines and things they have included, so you don't have to worry about that too much. And you can always arrange other items on top of it strategically if you're not happy with how it cuts out for you. Or just use your scissors and then you can cut out however you like. All right, so here we go. Oh, you like the color, Kathy. Oh, that's great. Yeah, the color scheme of this card is completely different than the other ones. And so it's nice to see all the different things you can do with a bundle, and even a set of paper. So it doesn't all have to be vibrant and bright. You can have these more muted tones as well. And then we just got this little splash of yellow to kind of bring everything together and kind of create that sunshine look to it as well. Okay, so now let's arrange all of our items. That's really the second to last step, is to arrange. I guess there's 3 more things: arrange, stick, and then bow. So we've got all of these different things. Let's see. So I like the sun kind of peeking out. So I'm going to put that sort of over here like that. And we'll have this rainbow one, or you could use the flower one. That would also be nice. So I'm going to put that one there. And then you can kind of put this over here, and that covers. And then you got room for your last piece over there, and then your bow in between. So I think that should work pretty well. Okay, so let's kind of put that off to the side without moving it too much, and we'll put this one on first. Okay, so I'm just going to use Stampin' Seal to stick these on. Nothing too complicated or fancy. All right, and next I'm going to go for the rainbow one. Okay. Okay, and that will be more down here. Okay, next we're going to go for our gray cloud. So I'm just going to put a line of adhesive across that. That should be more than enough to stick that down. All right, and then I'm going to pop this one up. So we're going to use some dimensionals for that. So I use one on that side and one on the other. Okay. Just kind of like that. And then we're going to adhere our label as well. So let's take our label. Okay. And kind of like this maybe, sort of, let's see. Yeah, that looks good. Now let's do our bow before we do our embellishments. I know some people love to hate bows. If you don't want a bow, just go ahead and embellish and leave the bow out. That's okay. You really don't need to have it if you don't want it. Or you can choose to put the ribbon kind of arranged underneath here with a tail this way and a tail that way. It's totally fine. You can do whatever you like with it if you're not into making the bows. That's okay. But I've got it here just in case you'd like to try that. All right, so that's pretty good. Let's make it a little bit smaller, how about? Okay, that's very nice. Oops, sorry to go off camera there with my bow. I was paying attention and not to the bow and not to the camera there. Okay. All right, so no waste at all on that bow. We just did the whole thing right on the spool and could kind of see what we needed. All right, so let's see where we want that to go. How about kind of like that? That looks pretty nice. Right toward the edge there. And then we're going to put on our embellishments. And our embellishments are these ones, adhesive backed sequins trio. And so these are really nice because you've got this white iridescent. I believe this is Berry Burst. And then you've got the green here as well. So I'm not sure if these are Pretty Peacock or Shaded Spruce, but they go really well with Shaded Spruce. So it doesn't actually matter either way. So let's take one there and one there. So as easy as that, with minimal stamping, we finished that card all together. And actually none of the cards that you've seen today are difficult. They just are a matter of following certain steps. And once you kind of get the hang of the bundle that you're using, you're good to go. So again, the bundle is called Bright Skies, and it comes with the photopolymer stamp set. And then it also comes with the dies. If you don't have a die cut machine and you want one, I could certainly help you out with that in purchasing one. But if you don't want one and you just want the stamp set and you're happy to do the rest with scissors, you can also just buy the stamp set. You don't have to buy the dies as well. It comes as just a stamp set, just a die set, or together as a bundle, whatever you happen to need. for your crafting. So thank you again for coming and watching my video today. I will put these cards all together here. There is a photo of them as well on my blog. If you click on Learn More, you can see them all there. I hope you enjoyed this class, and if you want to place an order with me, you can do so online with the link I've included in this post, or you can just message me if you prefer me to place the order for you, and then you pay me via e-transfer instead. That's fine. So thanks again for coming today, and have a wonderfully crafty week. Bye for now.